Uh, Hi, everybody. This is Rob Packard from Medical Device Academy. Sorry for the technical difficulties today. I was having trouble getting the right focus on the camera. This is as good as I think we're going to get today. But today's talk is going to be about what is a US agent and why do you need one? So, when we talk about US agent, we're not talking about Marvel Comics, we're talking about FDA. Medical device companies are required to have a US agent if they're not located in the US. So, what does this US agent do? Well, they're the point of contact for the FDA if the FDA can't get a hold of the company that's overseas. So, if you're located in, let's say, the Netherlands and you're trying to sell your product in the US, because you're outside of the jurisdiction of the US FDA, the FDA needs a contact that is physically residing in the US for them to contact if they can't get a hold of you. And the reason for this would be if they need to schedule an FDA inspection or if they need to execute a recall or something like those activities. They need somebody within their jurisdiction that they can contact as a liaison between them and the company in Europe. And it could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be Europe. It could be Australia. It could be China. It could be Japan, Korea, anywhere outside the US. So this is very similar to what we already have required for a regulatory responsible person in the UK, a regulatory responsible person in Switzerland, or an EC rep or authorized representative in the European Union. So those people have to physically be located in those countries as a contact person for the regulators. We have the same thing in the US, and in the US, we call it a US agent rather than a responsible person. Now, this person doesn't have to be a US citizen, but they do have to physically reside here. So you can't have somebody listed as the US agent and they just have an office here, but they're really located in the UK. I've actually seen a couple of companies do that. So that's something you want to verify. Do they actually have a presence in the US? Because that's required. They don't have to be a citizen, but they have to have an address here. And one of the ways to confirm that, other than you know them personally, would be check their done status. So if they have an EIN, they're definitely going to be physically located here. You can't get an EIN from the federal government. An EIN stands for Employment Identification Number. You can't get that unless you have a physical location here. You can't just have a mailbox, etc., and set up a business virtually. You have to have a real physical location where the mail can go to and where the FDA could go to if they had to. You typically will also have a DUNS number. So if you're doing any FDA grants, if you're doing an SBIR, you're doing an NIH grant, something like that, those government organizations require a DUNS number. All your foreign establishments, because they don't have an EIN number because they're not located in the US, they'll have like a VAT number instead. Those companies that are overseas, they're going to have to obtain a DUNS number in order to complete their registration. So these are the kinds of things that a good US agent explains to a foreign firm. So if you're having trouble with your registration and listing, you don't know how to do it, you should be able to call your US agent. They should be able to walk you through this and help you with it. In fact, some of them actually do the whole process for you. Just make sure that you can trust them because you're going to be giving them all your information about your company, all the contact information, all the particulars of your account. You're going to be setting up a primary registration account that is supposed to be secure and has security questions. And you're probably going to be giving them money because they're going to be paying the fee for you. Now, you could pay it yourself. They don't have to pay it for you. But in general, a lot of times it's easier for them to make one wire transfer payment instead of two because now they're paying whatever the US agent fee is plus the registration fee. And then the company that is doing the US agent services, they go ahead and pay the fee. So that's something we offer clients. If they want to do one or pay us directly for both, or just pay one, we show them how to make the payments online if they want to do it themselves. Another thing that I like to do when I'm teaching somebody how to go through this whole process, I like to record it. We do these Zoom sessions, we record them, and that way, if they need to undo things or correct things or fix things or need to do something in the future, they remember how to get into the account. They just watch the old recording. So that's a nice feature that you can offer somebody when you're trying to help them to do this, because they only do it once a year when they have to renew their registration. But back to what the US agent does. What will happen is the US agent will get emails automatically from the FDA confirming that they've been identified as the US agent, and they'll be asked to confirm that yes, they are performing that role. They only have 10 days to respond to that email. If they don't log into their own Furls account, Furls is the FDA registration and listing site. If they don't log into their own Furls account for the US agent and type in that code for the confirmation that was given to them by email from the FDA, then you as the manufacturer that's in another country will get an automated email saying they failed to verify within the 10 days and you need to restart the process. You have to go back and identify a new US agent if you're not happy with them, or give them another shot of verifying. So you would type all their information in again and try to re-verify them, and they'd have another 10 days to do this. Typically, we do it in seconds. So we'll process the whole entire registration. We'll identify our company as the US agent. We'll submit. We'll get the confirmation. We'll email to the company, and then we'll go check our own email. And sure enough, right up there is already the verification asking us to be the US agent. So we'll log into our own Furls account. We'll type in that product code or the verification code, and that process will be completed. So we can send that over to the client saying, okay, your US agent status is all confirmed and verified now, and your company is registered, and the process is complete. Now, what other times would the US agent get contacted by the US? What else do they have to do? Well, they also are the contact if the FDA wants to do an FDA inspection. So this doesn't typically happen right away when you first register. It might happen 1 or 2 or 3 years down the road. So if your company is due for an inspection as a foreign firm, let's say that same company in the Netherlands, they're going to be inspected by the FDA 2 years down the road. The FDA will send out an email, and it will go to the official correspondent for the company, and it will go to the US agent. It'll go to their emails, and it will give them a form asking them to fill it out, asking for information specifically about an FDA inspection. It'll ask if they have MD-SAP certification. That could exempt them from having to go through a routine inspection. It'll also ask, here are 3 or 4 different weeks that we would like to come. Which one of these would be best for you? They'll ask for recommendations for hotels. They'll ask for directions. They'll ask you to confirm your location, and they'll ask about what products you are making at that facility so they know which ones you're actually making versus which ones might actually be on your registration profile. So those are some of the things that you should be looking for from the FDA. As a US agent, you have to have somebody that's diligently watching their emails and checking. So fortunately, we have a large firm, and so we can have multiple people checking. One of the things that we're going to be doing for 2024, the fiscal year 2024 starting in October 1st, we're going to have a specific email just for US agent emails. And so we'll rotate who in our company is checking that email rather than having the same person have to check it all the time. So that's another measure that we're going to take. It also eliminates anybody else having that email address for spam purposes. So it'll be a very, very limited number of emails going into that folder, and we'll keep it just for US agent purposes. And the reason why we're doing that is because the number of US agent services we're offering out there is increasing. We started out and we only had a dozen, and it's going up pretty rapidly. So we need a special inbox just for that. So that's one of the things you want to look for. One of the people that was asking, here, we actually got a question here. Is there somewhere I can go to find out the regulations and responsibilities of the United States agent? So this is a question testing my knowledge, and I don't have my notes in front of me here for that particular detail, but I believe it's 21 CFR, which is Title 21, Code of Federal Regulations. I believe it's 807, and I'm not sure on this. I'll have to check it and put it down in the notes down below in the description. But I believe it's .40. So it'd be 807.40, and then I think there's a letter also specifically for that. But I'll check that, and I'll put the information down below at the end here. So 807, verify. So that's a great question. Thank you. Another thing that we have been asked is, do you have an ID number for the US agent? So what's the FDA US agent's ID number? Well, they don't actually have ID numbers. There isn't like an FEI number like you would have for an establishment, because this is just a US agent, not an establishment. So everybody that has a Furls account will have a code for their user ID. That user ID will be the first three letters in lowercase for that company. So in our case, it'd be MED for Medical Device Academy. And then you have either a 4 or 5 digit number that comes after that that's assigned by the FDA. Company doesn't get any choice on it. And then you decide what your password's going to be, but you have to renew those passwords and update them. You can't just keep on using the same password forever. You have to update that at least once a year. So there isn't technically an ID number, but there is a login user ID that only the US agent's going to have. And that's not going to be something that they're going to share publicly. So there isn't something you can look up. What is their US agent ID number? What you should be looking for, like I said before, is an EIN number from them, or a DUNS number, or both. And you want to make sure on that DUNS number, when you do a DUNS number lookup, it actually tell you what the address is, and they won't accept just post office boxes. Oh, Wandy's telling me it's 207.69. So I don't know if that's the same thing that I was talking about or something different. So I'll check that out. And Wandy's one of our regulatory consultants. So he was joining in on the session here too. So I'll check and see if it's the 207.69 or there's two different sections where they have the information. They do put different types of information in different places. One of the other questions was, what does the US agent do for the FDA? So, like I said, the FDA needs somebody that can help them with executing recalls. If there's any concerns about something that's stuck in customs, so a company shipped it in and something's not right and they can't get a hold of the company, but it's stuck in customs, they need somebody to contact, so the US agent will be contacted. Another question is, what do you do for the company? So technically, the only thing the US agent has to do for the company is forward communications from the FDA. And because usually the official correspondent is automatically copied, they probably received it anyway. So you could, as a US agent, just sit back and do nothing. Once you've verified with that code, you don't have to do anything for the next 12 months. However, if I were going to hire somebody as a US agent, I would want somebody that could answer my questions related to FDA submissions, registration listing, private labeling agreements, supplier quality, any kind of quality system issues, maybe even perform a mock FDA inspection if I needed them to do that. So it would be better to have a regulatory consultant that has experience in this, or an ex-FDA person that really knows the FDA requirements, because you don't want to be panicked when you get this request for an inspection, or you have stuff that's stuck in customs. You want somebody that can help you solve those problems. They can also anticipate what problems you might run into and help you prevent them by having supplier quality agreements, for example. You also need initial importers. If you're outside the US, to get it into the US, they look for the consignee address. So that's the address where it's shipping to, and they see if that's an initial importer. If the address for the shipper is not in the FDA database as an establishment, in the receiver, the consignee is not in the FDA registration as an initial importer, they know there's something wrong and they put things on hold and it gets stuck in customs. And that's when the US agent gets a call. So when you're setting up the US, the company's US registration, there's a listing portion that has to be completed for at least one device. And when they do that, they ask you who is the initial importer for this, and you have to list that initial importer as well. So if your company hasn't already identified an initial importer, you're not going to be able to complete the whole process. So one of the questions that we look for is, who is your initial importer? What is their FEI number? Or if they don't have it, an operator an owner operator number, because sometimes you have to wait to get the FEI. So if they don't have that information, then you need somebody that can help you find one. So they'll look through the 3-letter product codes for that particular product, or they might know of somebody that already is an initial importer that would be a good candidate for you. But you need to make sure you have an initial importer, you have to have a US agent, and you should have the appropriate agreements in place. So these are things that the US agent should be doing for the company, helping them prevent problems and avoid problems like things being stuck in customs. How do you become a US agent? So do I magically become one? No. There isn't even an application process. So it's not like I applied to the FDA and they granted me this based on my qualifications. All that you have to do is be residing in the US and have a valid email address and EIN number, and you're good. So if a company wants, or a regulatory consultant wants to become a U.S. agent, all they need to do is they go into the FURLS database and they create an account for themselves as a U.S. agent. And then whenever a company decides to hire them, they're going to give them that information, and the company will identify them as the U.S. agent. And then they'll be able to confirm in their own FURLS account that, yes, I am their U.S. agent. So it's really just knowing how to navigate the FURLS website, set up your own account as a U.S. agent. And that's all you really need to do in order to become a U.S. agent. But in order to fill in all the fields to create that FURLS account, you're going to have things like an EIN number, an address, an email, a phone number, a DUNS number. The DUNS is optional for the U.S. agent, but it's not for the company. So a lot of these things, if you just know how to navigate this website properly, you can have that role. So it's sort of it sort of weeds out all the people that are not qualified to be U.S. agents in a certain way, because they can't even set up the account for you to verify. If they can't do that, then they're not going to be qualified. But just because you can set up an account and just because you could be a U.S. agent doesn't mean you should necessarily hire them. I'd be looking for, do they have a contract? Do they have any provisions in that contract for what if I do have a recall? How much do I owe you? How much am I going to pay you? How are you going to help me? What do I do if I have an FDA inspection? What are you going to do then? So being able to explain these things to the company, this is what our hourly rates are, having established hourly rates, having the payment terms defined, having what kinds of provisions do you have in place to make sure you don't miss the emails and phone calls from the FDA. These are important things that should be discussed ahead of time before you get surprised by a U.S. agent. And I have seen a couple of cases where you have people that are basically scammers that are pretending they're a U.S. agent, and they're taking your money and not doing the actual services. So one of the things you might want to do is say, hey, do you have any other companies that you're a U.S. agent for that I can look up on the FDA website? And you don't even need really a referral. You don't need to contact the company directly. You can just go into the database. Oh, yeah, I can verify you're a U.S. agent for these 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have more than a dozen companies that we're a U.S. agent for. So it's easy to look up a couple of names and say, yep, you're a U.S. agent for that company. So we know you're legit. And they'll say that if you can produce several different companies that you're a U.S. agent for, that's pretty confident that, yes, this is real and this isn't some hoax. So that's something you might want to look at. And if you're thinking about, we're really not happy with our U.S. agent, what do I do about it? Well, you can always transfer who your U.S. agent is at any time. You log into your FURLS account, you go into the editing the profile, and there's a place for the U.S. agent. You change who the U.S. agent is, you hit submit, and then it will send a confirmation to the new U.S. agent, asking them to verify, and they have to do that within 10 days. So that's how you handle it if you are going to be changing who your U.S. agent is, and you can do that before October 1st. When your registration expires, they technically go until December 31st, but you can't make any changes in the site until you paid your user fee. So if you want to make the change before October 1st, that'll allow you to make a change now, and then you'll be able to pay the U.S. agent fee. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in this situation where you can't update the U.S. agent because you haven't paid the fee yet. So it's much better if you have an existing registration to do the change before October 1st, and then do the renewal with a new US agent. So if you're looking to switch US agent, that's the sequence of events that you should be following. We're going to be doing a lot more training out there for regulatory services for people that are foreign firms and aren't familiar with private labeling, US registration, FDA inspections, and we're going to be providing this information as a free service to some of the people that are companies that we're providing US agent services for. So if you're interested in that and you wanted to look for an added value, that's something we're offering. But we also offer it as a fee. So we have these webinars that you can purchase on our website. So it'll also be available and announced there. But I hope that is helpful to people. For those of you that want a quote on a US agent, there's an email down below in the description where you can actually send the email to that person. Her name's Becca. She's our accounting person. She'll actually send you a proposal for it. And Becca has been trained on how to do the entire US registration or US agent registration process. So she can actually give you the proposal for it, answer any questions, take your payment, reconcile it, and we can even make the payment to the FDA website for their DFUF website for your annual registration. And we can actually do the whole entire registration process for you, either on a Zoom session to show you how to do it, or we can do it for you if you don't want to be hassled by it. So those are the services we offer. If you want to read more about US agent services, we also have a link below to a blog that I published on Tuesday on this topic. So I hope that's helpful to you, those of you that had a little trouble because this was very fast and English isn't your first language. I understand completely. So you can go back and watch this video, or you can go look at the blog, and that might help you for those of you that are better at reading than speaking English. And one last thing, for those of you that have made it all the way to the end of this video, if you are interested in this service and you contact Becca, it says right in the description down below that you'll get a $50 discount if you let her know that you left a comment down below. Yes, this is self-serving completely. I'm just trying to get more engagement on this video in particular so more people know what a US agent does and know that we offer this service. So if you help me out, all you got to do is leave a comment down below. Even our existing customers, you do this, just put a little comment down there letting us know that you actually enjoyed this video. Ask a question. Like, get some free consulting out of this. Ask a question. I answer all the YouTube questions if they're appropriate, not inappropriate ones. I delete those. But the appropriate ones, I'll answer your question. It's free consulting for you. It will help you out, and it gives us more engagement on our channel, and Becca will give you the $50 discount. You can also help out one of your companies that you work with. If you're a US distributor and you get a company that they have a lousy US agent or they're looking for one, just let them know, take a look at this video, so share the video link with them. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you think of any comments for other videos that we can do, please let us know in the comments below. Have a great week. Bye-bye.